What's up, guys? Welcome back to a brand new story. This one's pretty crazy, so I know you'll enjoy it. Sit back, relax, subscribe if you're new, leave a like for nothing, and let's jump right into it. So we're going to call the subscriber who submitted this story Zach. So anyways, Zach had this friend called Jay, and Zach and Jay both had computer lab together. They were both in the 4th grade, and during the 4th grade, it was the first time they had access to like the computers at the school. And basically in computer lab, what you did was you went there and you basically learned how to use the computer, since the computer has become such a important and fundamental part in our day-to-day lives. So you'd have these like games or whatever that would teach you how to type. You would also learn how to use the internet, like how to browse properly or whatever. You would learn how to do a bunch of skills, right? Some very basic Google Docs or whatever, like very, very basic tools that would be important for them later on in life. So anyways, right, they're just sitting there and they're just chilling one day, and they always sit next to each other. And one thing that Zach and Jay do to each other is they're always pranking each other. I know in the last time, I think I did another video pretty recently about a computer lab story. It was like they were in a prank war as well. This wasn't like an official prank war where each of them were trying to prank each other and up the next person's prank or whatever. Zach and Jay just simply liked messing with each other casually. So this is where things get interesting, right? Zach very recently learned of something, a term that sounds like it's nothing, a saying that sounds like it's nothing bad at all. But when you look it up on the internet and you go to images and you don't have your safe search on, oh my God, you're going to find something terrible. I've actually personally never looked this up because I just don't feel like it. And I'm going to like allude to it. And I think it's like in the thumbnail. So there's something that is, you know, when you have breakfast and you have waffles, you can have pancakes or waffles. Let's just say you have waffles. And you know that there's a lot of colors: red, green, blue. So if you combine two of those phrases together, you'll find something that is not what you think. It is not your favorite breakfast food in a very, suspicious color. It's just something else I don't even want to get into. Warning, do not look that up. Do not do any of that. Please, for the love of God, I don't want your parents to get mad at me and send me angry emails. But basically, right, Zach learned that if you looked up this certain phrase into Google, you weren't going to find a nice breakfast treat. You weren't going to find something that would be nice to look at. No, in fact, you're going to find something that would be pretty bad. And especially if you look it up while you're in school, while the teacher is there, it could be pretty bad is all I'm saying. So at this point, Zach knew that he just needed to pull a prank on his friend at this point. He just needed to do so. So he turns over to Jay. So he turns over to Jay, right? And he's like, "Hey man, I just recently went on a trip over the summer." And Jay's like, "Oh, where?" And he named some location that's far away or whatever. And Jay's like, "Oh, that's really cool." And Zach's like, "Dude, I had like the most delicious food ever. Like, you got to look it up. It's crazy looking. You know that like they have like the wildest breakfast food. It's just like our breakfast food at home, except they dye it different colors." And Jay's like, "Bro, what? Like, are you serious right now? Like, actually?" He's like, "Yeah, dude, it's crazy. Like, all I'm saying is, like, this food item, it's so good, and it's unlike anything you've ever seen." And he's like, "Oh, tell me about it." He's like, "Oh, how about you look for yourself?" Yeah, you already know where this is going. He's like, "How about you look for yourself, Jay?" And Jay's like, "Okay, what is it called?" And Zach says what it is called, and I don't want to reiterate it a billion times in case YouTube gets big mad at me, because sometimes they do. And he puts it in the search bar. He looks it up. And immediately it's like Jay is like, "What is?" He just like clicks. He's like trying to like scramble out of everything. He's like, "Oh my!" He's like, "This is not." He's like, "Zach, this is not a breakfast food. What are you talking about? This is disgusting." However, the teacher caught a glimpse that something was on their computer, and she's like, "What are you two doing?" So immediately Zach and Jay just adrenaline rush, because they're like, "Oh no, we're about to get in huge trouble." So real quick, they go in and they close like every single tab that they have there. Like every single tab is click, click, click. They're just closing out everything at this point because they're not risking anything. And at the time, the teacher walks over, and she looks at them, and she goes to the computer, and at this point, Jay has closed out of all the tabs, and she's like, "Boys, I know you were looking at something. Like, open up the browser right now. So sure enough, Jay opens up his browser. And thankfully, it wasn't one of those browsers that would just immediately open up to the last page you visited. I'm pretty sure that was a thing for one browser. Because, yeah, that would have been pretty unfortunate. But sure enough, Jay opens it up. There's like tension in the room because like everyone looks over because the teacher's like mad at them for like looking at something they shouldn't. And sure enough, Jay opens it up and nothing's on the browsers. And Jay and Zach kind of look at each other and just have a mutual sigh of relief. They're both thinking like, oh, thank God. Oh, whew, that was a close one. And then the teacher's like, let's see your search history, boys. And at that point, Zach and Jay just both look at each other like, oh no. Real quick, if you made it this far into the video, comment Google down below. That'll be the secret word of the day. And if you want to support the channel, the best way to do so is just to watch another video after this one. An easy way to do that is in my playlist of story videos, which is in the pinned comment down below. Let's get back to it. Yeah, so anyways, Zach and Jay just look at each other because the teacher called their bluff, basically. The teacher's like, all right, then, let's take a look at the old search history then, boys. Let's just take a little peek at the search history, right? That can't be a problem. And Zach and Jay are just looking at each other like, oh, no, dude. Oh, no. So sure enough, Jay opens it up. And the thing is, right, the way the search history is shown is it doesn't show images or anything, right? It just kind of shows like the list of things typed in. So sure enough, at the very top of the search history, that phrase was there, front and center. And the teacher looks at it, and it's like, because it's like this bunch of random stuff. And it's like, I don't know, the search history is like typing tutorial, typing game, all the stuff they're supposed to do, and then this one phrase. And she's like, boys, like, please don't look up any random stuff that you're not supposed to out of class. Like, just don't do that. Anyways, go back to your typing game. So they look at each other like, what? Because they were 100% sure that they were going to get in massive trouble for this. Which I can understand why they would, because it's not a thing you should be looking up on the school computers, bro. That's all I'm trying to say. But sure enough, right, they realized that since this wasn't like the search history didn't show like previews of what they were looking at, that the teacher probably had no idea what this was. She probably thought it was like, I don't know, some kind of like funny internet thing, or like, oh, like that's funny, or I don't even know what she could have possibly thought that this was. She probably just didn't, she very clearly didn't know that it was what it was. But not for long. Zach and Jay really just like, they high-five each other. They're like, let's go, we got out of this. They basically think that they're off the hook, but the teacher goes back to sit in her seat. And I think the teacher just got a little curious at what this funny phrase was. So I think she decides to look it up herself. Because that's when Zach and Jay turn around to hear their names yelled out again. And at this point, Zach and Jay are like, what now? And the teacher like gives them a stern look and kind of like points at them and then points like next to her, implying that they should walk up. So Zach and Jay very timidly get up and they walk up to the teacher and they're like, hey, what's the matter? Like, what's the problem? And she just is looking at them. She's like, boys, I did not know what that search was until I looked it up myself, and my eyes are scarred forever. And they're just like, oh, no. And they're like, So she's like, you two, principal's office right now. They're just like, oh, no. It's so embarrassing, too, because everybody in the class is turned around, is just looking at them. Just has this big look of like, you guys are in trouble. Uh-oh. So, yeah, sure enough, they're walking up to the front, or they're walking out of the computer lab, and they're walking up to the principal's office. And at this time, they're like looking at each other, and they're like, what do we do? We're going to get in such big trouble. What can we say? And Alex is like, or not, sorry, that's the guy from last story. Jay's like, bro, like, why would you make me look that up in class? Alex is like, I thought it would be funny. Like, I was just going to get you again. And Jay's like, well, now we're both going to get in pretty big trouble. And, Zach's like, all right, let's just play innocence that we didn't know what this was. We heard it on the school playground, and we looked it up, and look, that's just what happened. And Jay's like, that's low-key what did happen to me. I didn't know what this was until you asked me to look it up, and now I know too much. So, yeah. They get up to the principal's office, and the teacher probably wrote up a little email, just like a TLDR of what happened. And the principal is looking at them, and she's like, boys, I heard a little bit about what you're doing on the school computers, And Zach and Jay were just like, oh no, she's gonna completely like destroy us. She's gonna rag on us, say that we're like so irresponsible. Are we gonna get suspended for 1 day, 2 days, 3? Are we gonna get expelled for this? Zach and Jay at this point are just like freaking out more and more and more and more. They're like, we didn't know, like all this. And the principal's like, guys, chill out for a second, please. And they both kind of look at each other like, what? The principal's like, look, obviously, you can't be looking that stuff up on the school computer. But also, we get it. You're at 4th grade boys. You hear something crazy, you want to look it up. It turns out to be something that is much worse than you think. That's not your fault. Look, here's the thing. If this happens again, then there will be consequences, right? We just can't have you be doing this on the school computers. But for now, we're just going to let you off with a warning saying if this happens again, then there will be problems. But look, just don't repeat this. And just look, if you hear something on the internet, just use safe search. And they're like, what's safe search? And she's like, just figure it out and use that from here on out. And so, yeah, Zach and Jay actually got off the hook for that, believe it or not. Click on the video on screen right now. I know you'll enjoy it. Just click it, do it.